Just waiting for the progress bar to load. Oh, nice. So many UX friends here. Definitely connect with each other as well and share how your UX journey is going along with each other. Done redirecting me to YouTube. All right, we are live on YouTube. So welcome to our UX Hiring Managers Demystified. I'm Grace. I am the founder of Design Buddies. I founded Design Buddies back in April 2020 to make some buddies in design, and we kind of bloomed to almost 15,000 members now. So super, super exciting. And we have a ton of events like this, a lot of free resources, mentorship, a partner with amazing design people list. So Natashia is actually one of our mentors here and also my coworker. And we also have lots of free resources and goodies shared, and more art or more design jams coming up as well with Adobe and more of our friends too and Protothon. And so before we get started, feel free to connect with Natashia as well. Natashia is a senior manager of product design at Electronic Arts, my coworker, with a broad experience at the intersection of design, data, and technology and marketing. Currently at EA, she's humanizing technology and the workplace and building cross-functional design teams and developing sustainable processes. Her passion has brought her to design mentorship and leadership and diversity and inclusion. In her spare time, Natashia shares truth and positively and beautifully designed 3-word. So make sure to check out her Instagram, 3-word truth as well. And for brief logistics for events, we'll start with Natasha's talk, and then we'll have a Q&A. In the Q&A portion, we'll alternate between people who raise their hand and ask their questions, and also read out questions from the chat if you don't want to raise your hand. And then the last 2 minutes till 10:58, Pacific time, we'll be taking a group photo and also a group wave for our Instagram story. So make sure to join that as well. And that said, I'll leave the floor to Natashia.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right, let me try to figure this Zoom. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And those from Asia, good night. I know it's probably like 2 or 3 a.m. over there. So excited to be here, and thank you for coming. Thank you, Design Buddies, for having me. So out of curiosity, are there any design managers in the room? Feel free to just comment in the chat. Okay, that's cool. Oh, there's a one chat. Yes, hi. That's awesome. So, for everyone, just feel free to comment in the Zoom chat as we go along and have your questions handy. We'll have an AMA later. I'd like to make sure I'm answering most of your questions. So, oops. So this is what we're discussing today, right? So I'm going to attempt to demystify my peers and also share some of my experiences. Computer is getting a little bit buggy. 1 second. Cool. So a little disclaimer before we start. The information that I'm sharing today is not representative of EA's views, and it is my dream to present something using as many memes as possible. So thank you for bearing with me. So we have the $1 million question. What do hiring managers care about when hiring? Every organization has different requirements, right, and expectations from you as designers. Depending on the design org model, what's needed in terms of skill sets are different. So for example, some managers would want a T-shaped designer, others may want an IC, others will want like a specialist, maybe what a startup wants, whereas like versus a corporation ones is really, really different. To make it even more complicated, every team and every hiring manager have their own requirements and expectations based on the experience and also the team culture. So this is the first truth that I'm going to drop today. So hiring is always a risk for all hiring managers. Doesn't matter whether you are a rockstar designer like Pablo Stanley, or you're someone who's worked with the hiring managers previously, or you're just started in the industry, it is still a risk for us. So the more you can convince hiring managers that you are worth the risk, and or the more you can minimize that risk, the higher the chances of you getting hired. The second truth, 51% team fit and 49% hard skills. So skills are obviously important, but personality is a little tiny bit more important for us. So as a designer, we collaborate with everybody. We collaborate with researchers, we collaborate with other designers, we collaborate with engineers, product managers, SMEs, all in a single team. So this requires a lot of communication, interaction between the cross-disciplinary team members. Each of us will have different personalities, will have different experiences, will have different ways of working. So getting along with each other naturally is important. You should be able to talk about other topics than just work related ones. And then the team environment should be psychologically safe, where everyone in the team should be able to feel free to express their ideas without fear and take and give feedback in a positive way. So, how do we assess team fit? Yes, Andre, this is my favorite meme as well. Um, we assess your soft skills amongst other things, right? So I'm pretty sure you know what soft skills are, but I'm just going to share anyway. The soft skills are non-technical skills that relate to how you work. So think about listening skills, time management, conflict resolution, empathy. Those are some examples of soft skills. Why are these soft skills important? On top of making sure that we build a culture of psychological safety, collaboration, someone can be excellent with technical aspects of the job, but if they can't manage their time or work within a team, they may be not successful in the workspace. So it is a combination of both, but soft skills are a tiny bit more important because that's how we assess team fit. So I'm going to share with you some table stakes soft skills, and these are not in order of preference. The first one that I like to share with you is self-awareness. What is self-awareness? It is the ability to see who we are clearly, to know our strengths and weaknesses, and the willingness to seek new challenges to learn and grow. Jasmine Friedel, who's a design director at Dropbox, narrowed it down to these three: curiosity, authenticity, and flexibility. So, what is curiosity? If we are self-aware, we have to be curious of how we are doing in our day-to-day. Like we'd be curious to have like some sort of like assessment of our abilities, either conducted by us or conducted by someone else. We'd also be constantly asking ourselves, how do we measure up to someone in our level or the next level? Are we meeting the mark? Are we sleeping? What are we doing? So like what you are doing today, speaking to mentors, getting feedback, like asking questions, having a conversation about their design journey, that's curiosity. The next one is authenticity. I'm going to share a personal story. So I lived in New York for 8 years before I moved over to California. So what do we know about New Yorkers? Rude, right? I like to think it's mostly because they haven't had their first cup of coffee of the day, but it is what it is. New Yorkers are straightforward. They have this get shit done mentality. They don't care much for small talk, and they like to just work, 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 work. Coupled with the fact that I grew up in Singapore, which is also straightforward, get shit done, no small talk, work, work, work. I knew that I had to make a little bit of some behavioral adjustment. So after a month starting work in California, I asked my teams, my peers, and my managers, what are your impressions of me and what could I do differently? Because I am very different, very, very different from Californians. So the feedback they gave me what I needed to modify certain behaviors so that they're not taken negatively and I can do more of the positives. When I reflect back on where my relationships or where the team is now, that feedback and behavior modification had organically trickled to the rest of the team. The team dynamics improved so much. So that authenticity built the foundation for a psychologically safe team environment where feedback is given and received positively. The next one that I want to talk about is flexibility. So, in this context, it just means being iterative and always looking for improvements. So, as designers, we adapt our work and approach as necessary based on new information, feedback, or perspective. So, think about design critics, or stakeholder feedback, user interviews, or like usability testings, and apply that mental model into self learning and self improvement. That's where you'll get flexibility. So, why is self awareness so important? A lot of people and a lot of articles state that knowing your strengths and gaps gets you hired and promoted. And I agree with that. I mean, like everyone wants that, right? Even me. So, why not have self awareness? The next one is high agency. So it is the ability to work autonomously, take ownership and responsibility without diminishing or compromising the contribution of others. So that's a lot. So let's try to unpack this. It all comes down to two qualities: ownership and proactivity. Ownership means taking the initiative to bring about positive results. It means not waiting for others to act and caring about the outcome as much as an owner of the company would. It is being accountable for the results of your actions. It is also delivering the highest quality work and delivered it in a timely manner. This will actually show others that they can trust you to do the right thing. Moving on from taking ownership, it's proactivity. Um, Being proactive is opposite of being reactive. So proactivity means doing the things you need before you need to do them. So for example, in our current climate, having an extra mask in your car or your bag when you go out and about in case something happens to the mask you're wearing is proactivity. Another great example from an article that I read sometime back is regularly changing the oil in your car instead of waiting for it to start sputtering and spewing smoke. So when you are proactive, you keep your car running smoothly and you prevent the costly repairs. The result, of course, is you experience greater peace of mind and you extend the overall lifespan of your car. So it's minimal investment, right? So it's a minimal investment that you make regularly to pay the huge dividends in the long run. So, what does it mean in the workplace? It means that you're always thinking ahead about the future, you're planning, you're preparing for what lies ahead. It also means you are anticipating the expected so you can better deal with the unexpected. It doesn't mean that you would, being proactive obliterate all of the problems that you might have. It just means that it reduces the number of the problems that you may encounter. So, like, imagine what you can bring to the table with this like high agency. I actually think there's a lot of things that we can bring to the table. So, next, collaboration. So, what's the difference between collaboration and teamwork? Collaboration is teamwork taken to a higher level. Teamwork is often two or more people joining together to accomplish a certain task. Collaboration is when two individuals of a group of people work together towards achieving a common goal by sharing their ideas and skills. Does that sound like our day job or what? What makes a great collaborator? You gotta get great communication skills, ability to work in a cross-functional team, and being open-minded. We interact with so many people every day, from stakeholder interviews to usability tests, from product ideas to design handoffs. You must be able to articulate yourself well at every stage of the design project. Why? Because you want to gather the right information you need to understand the problem and ultimately make the right decision. You also wouldn't want your work to be misrepresented and implemented in unexpected ways. You want to be able to present your work and defend them compellingly. Ability to work in a team and a cross-functional team is also important. There may be times in your career where you put in a lot of effort only for your work to be set aside. So for example, You may have spent like late nights in the pursuit of like creating this pixel perfect interfaces, pixel perfect, experiences. And you're like, yes, I got it. This is it. And then the entire workflow ends up being scrapped because someone else discovered a new, simpler way to get the job done. That can be heartbreaking. But like if you take a step back and then you see it from the big picture perspective, and then you put your ego aside, at the end of the day, what matters most is the user experience. None of the work that, none of the previous work that we did, none of this heartbreak actually matters. It is what we put out there for the user, and the best solution for them is what matters. Moving on to open-mindedness. Open-minded just means being receptive to other team members' point of view and suggestions in solving a problem or problems. In a situation, for example, a brainstorming, it would be great if you can hold up judgment and actively building on each other's idea. And then the ability to look beyond the self and also leave your ego at the door. That makes for great collaboration. So the next one's definitely something you have heard before. Critical thinking. So as designers, we take the seed of an idea, we cultivate it, we bring it into fruition. We also strive to solve users' pain points and challenges. And the first step in that direction is getting to know the problem at hand. Critical thinking is crucial to this process. Critical thinking also helps designers to understand, define, and ultimately solve design problems. So with that, critical thinking means the ability to understand and get to the root causes of the problems and evaluate things from someone else's perspective, informed by data and or all perspectives of the problem. So let's unpack that, because that's like, I've just been like rambling and, like rattling a lot, right? So it all boils down to how well can you analyze problems from users' point of view and or from the business point of view? Can you zoom out to the bird's eye view and then zoom in to the minutest details? Do you have enough data to help you understand the problem? Can you think of creative ways to find more data if you don't have enough? And then once you understand a problem well enough, can you distill it down to its essence and explain it in a simple manner? One second. I have sinus, so just going to do this quickly, and please excuse me. So in the recent years, critical thinking has also morphed, and it also helps justify your design decisions with data. So that means, how are you threading that golden thread from the root cause and user needs to your designs and to the business goal? What was the root cause that let you design your solution its way? So for example, if the business goal is user engagement, what was the root cause and research takeaways did you hear that is hindering that user engagement? Take that finding and design solutions for those. And just, link it back to that business goal and keep iterating until you get there. Hiring managers love to understand your process. Like, the more you can share about like, how do you make these design decisions? How do you use the data? What conclusions do you draw? How do you approach and respond to given situations and the problems? The better it is for us and the better your chances are. So under critical thinking, I've also put in problem solving. There is a difference between the two. Problem solving helps you determine the source of a problem and find an effective solutions. Problem solving is commonly used during ideation. Critical thinking is the step that analyzes which solution is the best and understand whether or not the solution is working as it relates to the goal. So they're different, and then they're used at different stages of the project. Cool, so we're gonna move on to hard skills. So what are hard skills? They are technical, they are job specific related skills, and it is often a reflection of your educational history. The first hard skill I'm going to share with you is the craft of execution. The hard skills of UX design include a sound understanding of the UX design process, the ability to deliver results, and having an eye for detail. So we want results oriented people who can execute from end to end. I've listed some of the hard skills of UX design. I'm not going to go through all of this and bore you with the things that we already know. The next one that I'm going to talk about is design thinking. This is also another one that you probably know and are practicing. So design thinking is a framework. We can call it a methodology. We can call it an approach to understanding problems and developing solutions. It is a buzzword in the industry, but it is much more than that. So design thinking is nonlinear, as we all know. It is an iterative process that teams use to understand users, challenge assumptions, redefine problems, and create innovative solutions to prototype and test. There are 5 phases of this. They are empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Design thinking is most useful to tackle problems that are ill-defined or unknown. And then we reframe those in human-centric ways and focus on what's the most important for users. So with design thinking, teams have the freedom to generate groundbreaking rules. Using it, our teams can define, get behind hard to access insights and apply a collection of hands-on methods to help find innovative answers. So in short, design thinking is the way you approach a problem to solve it. Expect to be asked this during an interview, and also apply it during your work once you're hired. The next one that we're going to talk about is product thinking. So now what's the difference? They're both are frameworks and approach and methodologies. They have product thinking enables designers to build better products, and it's a way of examining every design decision in context with the problem the user wants to solve and the business goal. So this should extend the relationship between UX and product management. So in short, product thinking is create something useful. It's about designing something that resonates and meet the business goal. Design thinking, however, is more of like, don't make me think, right? So design thinking pertains more to the product strategy, the features, and the experience. So I've got some tips that will probably help you. So the skills that I shared are not the end all and be all. Some hiring managers may care more about some versus all, one versus the others, or something else entirely. So these are some strategies that can help you further determine which skills they care more about. There are clues everywhere. So you're going to do tons of detective work. And you can find clues in the job description. You can find it in, by asking the right questions in recruiter interview. You can find it in hiring managers' LinkedIn profile, social media, portfolio. You can find it in a design org model. You can find it in a team culture. You can also find it in company culture. Don't be shy to ask recruiters who is your hiring manager, who will be your interviewers. And then don't be shy to ask your hiring managers, what's the design org model? What's the team culture? What's the company culture? What is the vision of this, the design organization that she or he are a part of? So on top of that, you can find some of these information in the company profile. You can go to Glassdoor, Reddit, whatever, wherever you go to find these information. The best that I've found so far is leverage your network. Make connection to people who has worked in these companies before or are currently working there or have friends who work there. So it's like, I know it's a ton of detective work, but I promise you, it is super, super useful. The next one that I'd love to talk about is mindsets. And this is something that, my mentor told me. UX the shit out of your job application and interview. Understand who are the key players in the end-to-end journey, and then understand what they care about. The next thing is be strategic, and then pick people, or make strategic connections, make strategic moves that can help you, and can help demonstrate the soft and hard skills that design teams are looking for. Another truth: you don't really have to be expert in all of those skills that I've just shared. Sure, we need soft skills and hard skills to be successful. But through this, when you're still starting out, you can demonstrate an understanding in some and have experience in others. So how do you expand your understanding and experience in soft skills? Like, the good thing is this is not like a chicken or egg situation, right? You develop soft skills over time. You get soft skills from experience. So you don't need to go back to school or get a job to start getting exposure to soft skills. Join design cohorts like Develop for Good or How I Can, where you can get more exposures to working together in a cross-functional teams of engineers, researchers, and PMs solving clients' problems. You can also get those skills from internships, side projects, hackathons, design jams. What I would love to ask of you is to be strategic and pick projects that can really, really, demonstrate or can really, really let you gain that soft and hard skills that you're lacking or need more practice on, that hiring managers are looking for. So that's all I have today. I think we can move on to the Ask Me Anything.
So I love all the gifts. Thank you so much for sharing. Make sure to connect with Natasha on all of her platforms. And for the question part, feel free to drop your questions in the chat or raise your hand to be unmuted if you want to ask on stage. Yeah, that was like super informative. I'm currently in my first ever design role, and I didn't know all these aspects to hiring as well.
It is a combination of everything. It's not just the soft skills or the hard skills. It also, like, there are things such as timing, right? Things such as, I wouldn't say luck, but like the availability of opportunities. The interview process itself is also long. So that would, that could go either way. I mean, even for me, I've gone through tons of interviews, and a secret, I hate interviewing because it takes so much out of you. It is so hard. Like, I'm an introvert, and it is like, some people are professional interviewers, some people are not, and that's fine. But for me, I think the essence comes into practice. The more you practice, the more experience you get out there, the more you can iterate on your approach to interviews, and the more you get data, the more you know how to react, or the more you know how to handle certain questions and certain informations in certain, organizations.
We have a ton of questions, so we'll alternate between people who raise their hand and people in the chat. So Handika raised his hand first. Try to get through as many as you can. Ask to unmute. Oh, cool. We have a lot of time for questions. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Grace. Thanks for the opportunity. This is interesting for me because the topic about the soft skill that quietly or rarely, I just want to ask about the soft skill that you mentioned before, of 51%.
Yep.
Just like your collaboration, critical thinking, the craft of execution, and etc. But I'm just wondering the perspective of the hiring manager when the value of the soft skill before interview, and how you pick and pick that suit on you. Thank you.
Yeah. So It is, first of all, it's so great to like meet another fellow countryman from Indonesia. I haven't spoken Indonesian in forever, and I'm not going to start now because no one's going to understand me. So, including you. So, how I think your question is, and tell me if I'm wrong, is how do hiring managers prioritize which soft skills and which hard skills they want for a team? There is no wrong and right answer to this, sadly. It depends. It depends on my team's situation. Like, what is the demand? What skill is my team lacking, right?
Mhm.
I cannot answer for the rest of the hiring managers out there, but for me, when I look at the team, so I manage a team of like 4 or 5 people right now. And then I know that some of them have like a stronger in visual design, some of them stronger in product strategy, and then some of them stronger in critical thinking. So I would identify the gaps and I will hire for that gap so that I can have a like a right mix of skills in case there are projects coming up that need that skill. So it's actually demand and also gaps in the team. So demand coming from the projects that are coming, and also, the skills that are needed or the gap in skills that I see in my team. What I like to have in my team is people who can learn from each other. So I have a tendency to hire, like, if I see a gap in visual design, I would hire someone who's strong in visual design, because then it will trickle down and become organically something that people care about and people pick up just organically. Of course, this depends again on the team culture. And I love my team. I think the XD team and where I work is the best because we kind of just support each other in what we do. Yeah, it's very rare. I recognize how lucky I am. Yeah, I hope I answer your question, Handika.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, the XC team is great. Yeah, for those who are just joining, Natasha is my coworker. We have a lot of great questions in the chat, so I'll try to alternate between people who raise their hand and one question from the chat. And also feel free to chime in if you see any questions you want to answer as well. And so Andrew asked a very interesting question. And how important are the questions you ask in the interview to the hiring manager? Like, how would you demonstrate these soft skills in the questions you ask the interviewer?
They are pretty important. It shouldn't be this way, but there is a lot of people who kind of judge you based on the kind of questions that you ask and also your performance in the interview. I just got to, and truth of the matter is, like, not of us are professional interviewers. Some of us have the same kind of capabilities, and sometimes we kind of fold up during the interview, right? And we'll get like nerves or whatever, and then we'll be like, oh shit, I think I did badly, just because it's intimidating, to have like maybe 5 or 4 people staring at you judging your work. So I understand that. So I would say do your research and have a base answer for some of the behavioral questions that you might get asked, because that's how we assess soft skills: behavioral questions and whiteboarding challenges, at least for me. And have a base answer to that and personalize it based on the company that you're interviewing for. So if you do your research and then for example, this company A, for example, cares more about collaboration. So you want to highlight that in your answers, versus company B, who's probably looking more on like, okay, your visual design skills, right? Or more on conflict resolution. So you can basically cater each answer to what you think the hiring manager or that company care about. I hope that answers your question. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, that was great. Like an interview should be like conversation as well. And yeah, we're gonna call on Jill next. Ask to mute. I'm just gonna go in the order of people who raised their hand. And if you're shy, feel free to ask in the chat. And if we missed it, feel free to keep asking the same question again.
Oh, Grace, I have one question.
Yeah.
That was messaged to me. So the question is, if I think I have most of the hard and soft skills, what am I doing wrong? I find it hard to pass the resume around. It is kind of hard to pin down without having the full context. But generally, from my experience, is if you send out resumes, templated resumes, like generic templated resumes, that is really, really easy to be passed over. So again, do your research. There are two things that I always encourage people to personalize in their resume. One is that small blurb where you talk about yourself, your passion, and what you are interested in. The second one is the part where you share like select projects. So those two you can kind of personalize and cater to the job description or what or who or what qualities that a company is looking for. That should basically gives you the next step. You should be able to move on to the next step with that. On top of that, networking is very, very important. So Grace, can I share your story?
Yes, of course.
So Grace DM'd my manager for an internship, and they didn't know each other before then. So cold DM such as that on LinkedIn works too. Just like, be strategic about what you want to say, what you want to tell, and how you reach out. That definitely will help you in getting past that resume round.
Cool. And then also important not to ask for a referral. I let them ask. And so like it will sound too direct and stuff. So yeah. I'll go with Jill next, who raised her hand. Has to unmute.
Hi, thanks for doing this. My question is for at least myself. I've been in the game industry for a while, but not in UX. And training for UX, most of the sources out there are non-games related. And so my portfolio right now is more focused on web because those are the things that people demonstrate in all these boot camps and classes. So my question to you is, as somebody who works in the video game industry and looking for UX in that area, do you consider anybody who doesn't show games related UX and just look for those skills, soft skills, hard skills, or do you look more specifically for those who have game focused UX and UI in their portfolio?
That's a great question. So it depends. That's going to be my answer to everything, unfortunately. But it's the truth. It depends. It all depends on what role and position you are applying for. So if you are applying for a junior role, for example, then the expectation of having some sort of that expertise is probably lower than versus someone who's, if you are looking for a more senior role. What you could do though, because I know, getting internships in video, or even getting contract work for video game industry is kind of harder because it's very niche and very specific. So what you want to do, some suggestion would be something along the line of, if you are pivoting into this new role, what are the things that you already have? What are the soft skills and the hard skills that you already have that can port over naturally in this new role? Secondly, if you cannot find cohorts or you can't find people who you can work with to expand on your portfolio, a great thing that you could do is you could do some sort of like, UX assessment of a game, for example. You can go at it from the angle of accessibility, or you can go at it at the angle of visual design. You can go at it from any angle you're interested in, and just have that case study that could demonstrate your expertise, your interest, and your passion, and your level of knowledge and process in tackling something in that area. Did I miss anything, Jill, or is that? I hope I answered your question.
I think if people mute themselves again, they can't unmute due to the security settings, so I just changed that.
Okay.
But I can't find the name of the, I had to like scroll down. But due to time, we're going to try to get through as many questions as we can as well. So Selena is next.
Hi, I was wondering if you had any insight as to like how different, like, I guess like a lot of the times the interview process will have like multiple rounds with different people with possibly on different teams, like for example, like VP of product versus other UX designers or UX researchers. So I was wondering like if you had any insight as to like what these different people in these different positions look for. And I guess like more specifically, like when interviewing for a UX role, what kinds of things are a PM expecting in the interview versus like an engineer?
I'm sorry, I think you cut off a little. Maybe let me reiterate your question, and then let me know in the chat, or just let me know if I got it right. I think your question would be, what are the expectations that we have for a UX designer versus engineer in an interview?
No, it's more like a lot of the interviews will be like, if I'm interviewing, I will be meeting first with like VP of product, and then like second an engineer, and then third meet the UX team. So I'm wondering like, what are those people looking for when they're interviewing me?
Okay. So this sounds like it's a startup situation, because a startup is mostly more flatter in terms of like hierarchy. So if you're meeting the VP of product, I think that person could be the hiring manager, or they're also looking for your understanding of product development, and also your understanding of the relationship between product and UX. And possibly if that person is a hiring manager, it's also he or she is looking for, your depth of understanding in UX for sure. If you're meeting an engineer, it's mostly about collaboration. How do you collaborate with an engineer? Conflict resolution sometimes will be thrown in there. So like there's this tension, right, between engineering and UX. So UX wants to design like the best thing ever, the best experience ever for the users, and which could meet the business goal. And then engineering is like, hold up for a second. We don't have that many, this is a 5 or 6 sprints effort. So things like that, I think, is what I meant by conflict resolution. Mm-hmm. And then the UX team is mostly possibly it is going to be culture fit, team fit, collaboration, and also your UX skills, the depth and breadth of your UX skills, because that is mostly probably going to be a portfolio review.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. I'm going to go with Skylar next.
Hi there. Thank you so much for setting this up and answering these questions. I had kind of a vague question. So for open job roles, are they generally available internally, or are the jobs posted online genuine? And would you encourage everyone to go apply for those?
What do you mean by genuine?
Or just like I heard weird rumors that sometimes jobs are just posted online just to see what's out there in the talent pool, or that probably depends on the company.
Yeah, I would say that depends on the company. So each companies have their own strategies in hiring. So like Facebook and Google usually hire by the batches, and then they'll figure out where to put you, based on your interests and your level and expertise. Whereas startups are more into like, I need you immediately and stuff like that. They're all different. And again, they are also different whether that job is available internally or externally. So I wouldn't know for sure, but I would actually encourage you to apply anyway, because the more experience and the more practice you can have, the better you will be at interviewing and job application.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's tough. Interviewing is tough. Especially given the current climate, whereas we have an uncertain economy, right, because of the pandemic and then the pandemic. So it is a long road. I just want to tell you all that, you're doing a great job. Be patient, continue practicing, and keep iterating. That's, I think, the best you could do right now.
Thank you. Yeah, I know definitely now, as far as career exploration, it can be difficult, especially due to the pandemic, all of the factors with the economy. Your parents will say, oh, just apply for that job and walk in the door and you'll get it. It's different nowadays in the way that we have to be strategic and network. So just like time management and making sure we're applying the right places is important. So thank you.
Sure.
Awesome. Rip, why don't you raise your hand as well? Let us know if you want to answer any question in the chat. I see some really great ones too. All right, I'll go with Noah next, who raised his hand.
Hello, can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. So I was wondering if there's anything different one should do to prepare for like a gaming UX job, different from like your average like corporate UX job. If there's anything unique about gaming UX jobs that you should like do for your portfolio, other than the obvious like, focus on games in your portfolio, but anything to prepare for an interview or a job that you should do for that.
So one fun fact, I'm not a game designer, and I do not, and I don't lead a team of game designers. So take this answer with a pinch of salt. So you absolutely should prepare differently for every type of UX jobs, right? There's enterprise jobs. There is more of a B2C or customer facing job for UX itself. There's enterprise, there is gaming, there is UX writing, there's everything. So I would say personalizing that experience for a hiring manager has always worked for me. Even if, that's why doing that research and doing that detective work of finding the clues in the job description, finding the clues in, the portfolio of your hiring manager, knowing what the company cares about, what you care about, knowing how the team culture is that works. So that would be your preparation, I would say, on top of like the rest of like having more gaming related portfolio.
Cool. I'm gonna try to alternate between people who raised their hand in the chat as well. And so Jade asked an interesting question. She says, wonderful insights. What are tips you have for mid to senior designs who want to become a lead? So get people thinking of what they want to do long-term, and how might one become more strategic and further develop leadership skills?
The answer is to get that job ladder and then, trying to find opportunities and allies that could give you, that could create you opportunities or champion you for that next role. Does that make sense? Like, I know, and I know some companies don't even have job letters, and I know some companies are not even transparent about job letters, and that irks me because anyway, that's a different conversation. But always ask your manager whether you could see that job letter, what are the requirements and criteria your team or your hiring manager or the company are looking for a lead. And then you can be strategic and try to like have, or you can form strategic relationships, and you can figure out how or what skills that you should be exhibiting so you can move up to the next level. As far as how you can be more strategic and further develop leadership skills, look for stretch opportunities, and then you could also volunteer. So one of the things that we do in where we work right now is that there's a lot of employee resource groups outside our immediate department, right? So, or organization. So you can show or exhibit leadership skills in projects outside your current job. So if it's a startup, you can look into like leading, company-wide initiatives. It could be related to UX. It could be non-related to UX. It could be as simple as looking at interview processes, right? How can you standardize that? How can you make that better? Or it could be also as simple as, there is I'm seeing low morale because of the pandemic. So what are the things, or what are like the projects that you could initiate and lead in terms of like making sure that the team has higher morale and keep that team engagement high? So it's a lot of things. You don't really just need to excel or like look for opportunities in your area or your purview. You can also go beyond that.
Awesome. I know we have like 3 people raise their hand and a bunch of questions. We have time for one more question before time is up, and we take a group photo after that as well. So I'm going to call on the people who raise their hand in order. So I apologize if you're unable to get your questions answered, but you're welcome to continue the conversation on Discord afterwards. And so Erica, who is in the same order, I see raise your hand. We'll get the last question.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for presenting. So I was wondering, like, how should I answer the question, like, walk me through one of your projects? Like, how much detail should I go into? Also, this is like in an interview with the hiring manager, because I feel like I don't want to ramble or like go too into detail, but I guess I still want to like communicate my decisions.
Right. So that question is, when we ask that question, what we want to know is your process. How do you, your process, right, from end to end? Do you employ design thinking? Do you, what data do you get? What was the stumbling block that you experienced? How did you solve that stumbling block? And I think the most important thing, though, is being able to justify your design decisions with the data or research that you have uncovered. And also, how do you tread that golden thread between user needs, business goal, and your design? That is something that I'm most interested in. The other thing to take into consideration is how long do you have in that interview? Because like if you have 20 minutes, then you know that you want to hit the right points. You don't want to go too detailed You need to be like, you need to come into there and know which are the points you want to hit. If you have 40 minutes, for example, then you know, oh, maybe I can walk this person, maybe I can walk it through like in more detail. Right. So always find out, like, typically recruiters will share this in advance. Like if they don't, just reach out and ask, because that would get you to be more prepared. And it's also a fair way of like getting all of the candidates being prepared or prepped for their interview. There's really no wrong or right answer, but those are like some of the tips that I can share with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know we're out of time, so we're going to take a group photo. So as I wait for everybody to chime in on turn on their camera, we'll take a group photo and then a little wave for our Instagram story. So that'll be fun as well. So this will be found on our Instagram at design.buddies. And I know there's a ton of questions. Natashia is also on Amazing Design People list and on ADEP list. So you're welcome to schedule some time for her. Make sure to write her a nice review afterwards if you chat with her on ADP list as well, and connect with her on all of her social media platforms. Also connect with Design Buddies. And we also have another project jam coming up with Protothon. So that's another opportunity where you can work on a project with a team, practice teamwork and leadership skills in your Protothon project, and get more experience as well. So I personally did a lot of hackathons, specifically 10, to get experience and getting my first role in UX. So I highly recommend that as well if you guys are looking to go into UX. And I'll count down 10 seconds for everyone to turn on their camera. And then we'll do a wave or a dance or a dab. You can do whatever movement you want for our Instagram story. So this is actually going to be in our highlights as well. So we do this for all of our events. So make sure you can grab an object, grab a stuffed animal. We always have a lot of plushies. Grab your coffee mug, anything you want. Oh, it's an EA yo-yo. And you can grab anything you want. Oh my God, it's a Tom Nook. I love Animal Crossing. It's a dog. Oh my God, so many plushies. But yeah, I'll count down 10 seconds. Oh my God, so many plushies, to wait for everyone to grab their favorite object, and we can take our photo with that as well. And I can have up to 49 people on camera on Zoom at the same time. Otherwise, I'll have multiple pages. I have a 32-inch monitor, so I'm going to expand that so we get all of our beautiful faces on here. Thank you so much for coming. There's so many buddies here. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. I'm going to take a couple so we can all choose the best one, how it's, like. 7, 6.
Take more.
Of course. So keep smiling until I say we're done. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Say cheese.
Cheese.
Cheese. Cool. So now we're gonna wave. Feel free to dance. You can dab. You can do the wave. Anything you want. So this will be recorded in our highlights on our Instagram story. So let me open up my story, and make sure if you really liked our event, tag us on your Instagram story and we'll reshare it. We actually have a highlight in our Instagram story saying thank you. So make sure to tag at design.buddies, tag Natashia, and we will reshare it on our Instagram story. And this is recorded afterwards. I know that was a question that was DM'd me as well. All right, ready, set, wave. Hello, buddies. We are at UX Hiring Managers Demystified with Natashia. She shared very woke and actionable advice. So make sure if you missed this, catch us on YouTube later. As always, stay positive and test negative. Thanks, everybody. I always say that. Anyways, that concludes our event. Make sure to connect with all of us. Join us on Discord. We are the largest design community in the world, upcoming very soon. And tag us on Instagram stories and connect with Natashia if you miss anything. Schedule time with her on ADP list, write her a nice review. And yeah, so that concludes our event. See you at our next event, which is, we have so many more upcoming right now. And thank you all for coming.